Prepare to embark on a transformative journey with me today as I delve into the ancient system of healing known as Ayurveda. In this series titled My Ayurvedic Odyssey, I invite you to join me as I interview individuals who have undergone the rigorous study of Ayurveda at Maharishi International University. Each episode offers you a glimpse into the personal and professional journeys of these individuals, exploring how Ayurveda found them and how they've integrated its timeless wisdom into their lives to enhance overall well-being. My guests share insights and anecdotes that offer a glimpse into the profound impact Ayurveda has had on their lives and the lives of their clients. But our exploration doesn't stop there. We also delve into the future of Ayurveda and the creative ways these individuals envision promoting its growth as a practical system of self-care. With its focus on eliminating the root causes of conditions and improving overall health, my guests offer innovative strategies for integrating Ayurveda into modern healthcare systems and society at large. Join me on this enlightening journey as we uncover the timeless wisdom of Ayurveda and its potential to revolutionize modern wellness. Whether you're a seasoned practitioner or new to the world of Ayurveda, this series promises to inspire, educate, and empower you on your own path to holistic health and well-being. Ladies and gentlemen, today I have Jamie Bateman, and Jamie shares her story and the topic, the transformative power of Ayurveda. Welcome, Jamie.
Oh, thanks for having me, Noreen. It's so lovely to be here with you today.
Absolutely. Okay, let's start with lots of this question that I hear in a lot of podcasts is, I wasn't even going to do this until a moment ago, but I like it. At least we'll
Sure.
experiment, right?
Okay.
If you had to write a billboard about your journey with Ayurveda, what would it say?
The first thing that came to mind is in the works.
In the works.
In the works.
I love that. Well, we all are a work in progress. So
For sure.
I love that because you didn't overthink it. It's just, in the works. Perfect.
In the
Love
works.
it.
Simple.
We're in the works.
Always
Well,
totally growing and evolving. Yeah.
Yeah. And just when we think we've learned it all, right? Actually, that's a great way to segue into Ayurveda because Ayurveda is a completely different paradigm. So let's start with a question that I do like to ask, and Jamie, and that is, how did Ayurveda find you?
Oh gosh. It's interesting. I was thinking about this, the other day, and I love what you say about Ayurveda finding us, because I think that's exactly what happens. It wasn't something that I was necessarily in direct search for. So what had happened, really, how I got introduced to Ayurveda is probably the biggest factor in my life was my mom getting sick. She was diagnosed in 2016 with triple negative breast cancer, stage 4. And so what kind of occurred there is I started caring for her, and I was caring, for my grandmother who had dementia. I was trying to help my father as well, with caring for his deaf and blind uncle. So there was a lot going on in 2016, and throughout the years there, I was really inspired to try to find something that could help my mom in dealing with her cancer, because she was going through chemotherapy and radiation treatment and just all sorts of life changes and shifts that was very, very intense. And I was trying to figure out something that I could do to help her through. As we know, when you're taking chemotherapy or even doing some sort of radiation, there's a lot of side effects, and other symptoms that can come up and make life really uncomfortable. And she actually did really well, through that whole process. But we were looking into alternatives that would be more healthy I mean, she started out kind of using, medical marijuana and some other things. And luckily she didn't have as many as or as severe symptoms as others had had. But I had been introduced to Ayurveda and it kind of became just a kind of a catchphrase um, about probably about 10, 11 years ago when I started learning transcendental meditation. So back in 2013, I was going through some transitions, in my career and my job, and I was looking for something that would kind of give me support. I was doing crime scene investigation for the Denver Police Department at the
Yeah,
time.
you and I had an opportunity to chat about that previously,
Yeah.
and you were actually, you said doing crime scene investigation?
hmm As
Wow.
and doing a
And
lot of
you,
volunteer work there. Uh-huh.
wow. And you decided to, a little bit about your educational background, because I found
Oh,
that to
sure.
be quite interesting as well.
Oh, sure. So I have a degree in business administration and then also in physical anthropology with minors in criminalistics and honor studies. And then, of course, I have a master's of science degree from Maharishi International University uh, in integrative Ayurvedic medicine. So
Right.
quite a wide range there. I had intended to go into forensic anthropology. I thought criminalistics and crime scene and criminal justice was going to be my path. And that's not what happened. Life comes along and the plot twists and you have to pivot and shift and change. So I ended up in a really great opportunity to work with some amazing people, at the Denver Police Department and doing, a lot of volunteering and then, of course, crime scene work. And that lasted a little over 6, 7 years. And crime scene work is very dark. It's very heavy.
Were you
But I
working for the
loved
police
it.
department? You were working
Yes.
for the police department. Okay. Wow. Yeah,
And I
so
loved it.
while you were working there, you decided to learn
I,
transcendental
I
meditation.
did. I did. And I found the local TM Center in Denver. And I met with Rusty Frazier at the time, and he introduced me to TM. And I picked that up because, it's so funny. I was looking for ways to manage myself mentally and physically because the demands of crime scene work is huge. It's not just
Mm.
like a regular 9 to 5 job. Even when you go home, you carry those things, those experiences, and the scenes. You carry it with you. So I was trying to make sure that I was showing up as my best, and it's funny. When you're looking for something, it's like when the student is ready, the teacher will appear. And I heard a George Strait song on the radio just randomly one day, and part of the lyrics really caught my attention. And he talks about transcendental meditation. And I'm like, what is that? So I started doing a little research and
I
discovered,
love that.
the
So you heard a
center.
song on the
I
radio
heard a song. Yeah.
and you decided, you know what, I have to look into that.
Yes, exactly.
Awesome. Awesome.
And so I met with Rusty and his wonderful wife, Reeve, became my teacher. And so I've been practicing TM for over 11 years. And then I think, within that community, I was introduced to other avenues of the Vedas, such as, astrology and Jyotish and, you know, um, getting healthier, eating healthier, which I was interested in anyway. So, there was just kind of this catchphrase of, oh, Ayurveda. Well, I didn't really do anything with any of that. I just relied on, the TM as I was going through shifts with work and doing those things. And I actually ended up leaving um, Denver in 2014 and starting my own virtual assistant business, which, TM was great with helping me to have the clarity and, the organization and the presence of mind to be able to do that. And so I got
So in
out of
2014,
the dark
you
and into the
became
light.
I know. So you became a VA, you said that was your primary source of income working as a VA.
Correct. Uh-huh.
Okay. All right.
Yeah. And
Yeah. Well,
then
that's interesting because the TM um, was significant for you in terms of
Absolutely.
your crime scene work and actually
Mhm.
just kind of unraveling that
Yes.
assault on your consciousness is all that I can really say
Right.
regarding that work.
Right.
And then, but even with the VA work, which is obviously a different kind of stress and
Mhm.
not quite as dark, um, you found the TM to be helpful in
Yes.
keeping on track,
Mhm.
servicing your clients properly,
Mhm.
being
Just
happy with work.
keeping up with energy and getting over the apathy that I had developed, while working in the police department. I mean, because you're interacting with people on the worst days of their lives most of the time. And you start really seeing more of the dark side of life. And it's really difficult. So I became really cut off and disconnected and apathetic. But with my TM, it helped me to keep that positivity and clarity and still feel like I was connected. And it helped with my healing. So, and the
Sure.
shift.
Well, there's still some light, you're still,
Yes.
there's some illumination in the midst of all of it.
Mhm.
It's interesting because the word that came to mind when you started talking about how you felt even for a time after leaving that career was, um, kind of a heaviness. I'm thinking about the guna, tamas,
Right.
and that it's not like you can just turn it off immediately, and it takes a while just to kind of shake that off,
Mhm. Mhm.
and just were there other practices that you found helpful after you left your career in crime scene work that because I find sometimes getting in my body in some way
Mhm.
enables the TM is definitely one prong, but are there
Mhm.
other practices that you were using at that time
Mhm.
um, back in,
Sure.
I guess you left, I don't know, what year did you leave your crime scene work?
I left there in about 2014. So,
Yeah.
and
Were there
started in
other practices?
2006. Yeah, yes, I was doing some Pilates. I loved yoga. I was going to the
Okay.
gym and doing some weight training. And then just some other mindfulness, practices that I had tried, in the past. And I was just looking for more, looking more for some sort of depth, I guess. And so, TM kind of led to that. And then when my mom got sick in 2016, and I started looking at other alternatives because I was doing, Reiki. I had learned Reiki and was a master teacher level of Reiki and also integrated energy therapy. So, the hands-on energetic healing, that I kind of worked with mom through. And we were trying to figure out, what else is out there? What supplements? Is there something more supportive? Is there their diet? And certainly I've been searching for something myself, to keep balanced and healthy. And so, what happened was I was inspired because number one, I was so overwhelmed with being a caretaker in my family. And it was really, really hard. And I
Yeah, I
needed
can't
something for
imagine.
myself.
Yeah, I can't imagine. You and I chatted about this as well. I can't imagine
Mhm.
taking on three
Yeah,
caregiver obligations.
yeah.
And there definitely isn't enough support for caregivers.
Mhm. Yeah.
Just the emotional toll and the burnout, and
Mhm.
um, just really not feeling supported properly
Right, right.
is, people don't realize just the impact that kind of stress has on your health.
Right. And I mean, you're in survival mode. That fight or flight, that switch is always turned on. And there's not very many opportunities, a whole lot for time or self-care because you never know what you're going to have to be dealing with. I remember there were times, mom was doing pretty good. And there's other times in almost like an instant, it would be like, oh gosh, I've got to I'm calling the ambulance now, or I'm taking her to the ER, or, my grandmother had fallen, or, just these different things. And I needed to be present, fully present, aware, and able to handle, that kind of stress and the
Sure,
load
yeah, and
without
that's
breaking. So,
we can do that for a certain period of time, but as that kind of stress becomes chronic,
mhm,
it just has a really um, challenging impact on our physiology and our mind. But
yes.
let's turn to you started looking at Ayurveda for your mom
Mhm,
and her experience.
mhm.
Was there a pivotal moment that solidified your commitment to studying Ayurveda? Because you actually decided not only just to start
Right.
looking at Ayurveda, but you decided
I
you're
did.
not going to stop there. You're going to enroll in a 3-year master's program at
Yes.
Maharishi University. Was there
Yes.
what was that pivotal moment for you?
Um,
If you can share that.
I had a goal for myself that I wanted to get a master's degree, but I
Okay.
didn't really know what I wanted to get that degree in. It was just out there. This is a life goal for me. And, with mom's illness, I also realized I needed something outside of the caretaking for myself. I needed another focus, something that I can
Yeah.
kind of turn to and maybe bypass a little bit of everything that was going on at the time. And just through TM, I knew about Maharishi, University, and I thought, gosh, I wonder what kind of programs they may have, for masters. So I did a little research. I hopped online and I saw that they had a master's in the integrative, medicine with Ayurveda program, and I could do it online. And it seemed manageable, with the workload for the week. And I thought, okay, I can incorporate this um, in with everything else that I'm dealing with, right now. I can do this. So I applied, and they accepted me, which was wonderful. And I thought, the biggest thing too is this is something that I'm also learning that I can not only apply, in my own life, but I can take it to my family. And that's always been a big thing for me because I am very family oriented, and, I love my family, and I'm always trying to be in some sort of support or service of others. And so that is a really big motivator for me. So it's
Okay.
not just something
Right.
for me, like selfishly or yeah, I need to be able to have some way to use it in the light of service for others too.
Yeah,
And so
that's
this is
really
perfect.
a great point because people do the program for different reasons. And so for
Right.
you,
Mhm.
although you had some personal and professional goals,
Yes.
and this was going to offer you a creative outlet as well,
Mhm. Mhm.
in the throes of your caregiving, which you I'm sure desperately needed.
Yes.
And but at the same time, this was going to be an opportunity for you to be of service not only to yourself but to
Mhm.
your family,
Mhm.
and of course to others as well. We'll get into that.
Mhm.
Now, anytime you go into an academic program, you know, inevitably you start off, real enthusiastic, but those obstacles and those challenges come up.
Sure.
Um, is there a particular challenge that you want to share during your studies of Ayurveda, your professional studies of Ayurveda in a master's program that, was particularly challenging for you and perhaps what you did to overcome it?
Sure. Just, the program within itself, I had to manage it and bring it into what was happening, what was going on in my life. So, of course, I was aware of, deadlines and things like that. And the staff was so amazingly supportive of me and, what an understanding of what I was going through. And I'm a very type A person and a perfectionist. And when I commit to something, I'm all in. And so it was a real challenge, with everything else that was going on to um, show up at my level of what I expected for myself. And, the staff was really helpful they carried me, at times through when it was really difficult. And I got, like everyone else, you can get a little bit behind and you're, trying to get caught up. And I managed that, with their help and, their guidance too. And I think being the fact that this is a consciousness-based, program, and also the TM again, it really helps you just be more centered and stable and have some sort of a foundation. So I felt anchored. I had something to anchor to, which I desperately needed, and I wasn't just
Yeah.
blowing in the wind all over.
Yeah, no, that's great, because I think, especially when you're doing online programs, you can feel disconnected. But you're indicating that when of course, it's important anytime we're in whatever we're in, whether it's forensics or studying alternative healing like Ayurveda, we bring ourselves to the table. So if we have those tendencies of type A or perfectionism, it's an opportunity to soften those somewhat. And they don't automatically disappear just because we move into an alternative healing role. I found that. But you use the word anchor, and that's a good word, that you felt that in pursuing your studies of Ayurveda, because you felt anchored, and TM was the foundation for that, and that you were able to sustain your studies and maintain them. So that's really, really important, really helpful in keeping our motivation going, no doubt. Now,
and I felt like I was just in the eye of the storm, kind of with all that was
I
going
love
on,
that.
around me, but yet I was still in this safe kind of centered space. And that's where I was able to anchor into. But one of the things that, Ayurveda and this program and even, TM, it's all encompassing, there is that wholeness aspect. And what really resonated with me is just taking things easy and as it comes. And that's something that, Maharishi talks about with TM, when we're doing our meditation, you just take it
I know,
gently
don't you
and
love
easy.
that? Easy,
Yes.
simple, effortless.
Effortless, no expectation. And, each time you transcend or you meditate, it can be different, every time, just like our experiences throughout the day changes as well. Because
Sure. Well, even when we do the self pulse in Ayurveda, we want to innocently, without effort, feel the pulse or feel the client's pulse as well. And at first you'll say, well, what does that mean? What does that mean? But, as you start to kind of let go of your preconceived notions and all of that, and allow yourself to have that experience, you begin to get glimpses of that. Not all the time, not all the time.
It's a surrender.
And that's a big lesson, especially if you don't mind me saying, you just self-described, type A, you expect a lot of yourself. So we can be really hard on ourselves. So learning to be more gentle and surrendering to the experience. Now, you did a deep dive into Ayurveda with your 3 years of study, and you continue to study Ayurveda.
Yes.
Can you share for our listeners and viewers what aspects of this ancient wisdom resonated with you most? Maybe you could just give us the top three.
Top three Ayurvedic resonances. Well, definitely it's the lifestyle, the diet, the behavior, the routine. We talk about, the 3 pillars of health, which is, good sleep, right? Obviously, eating well to maintain balance in the body. And then just living the lifestyle, keeping the company of the wise, being really protective of my senses. It's not just what I consume, from the food or drink level. And my family is part Italian, so everything revolved around food. Celebrations, happy, sad, we sneeze, let's eat, So this has, been a very different way to help me be more mindful, because I battled with emotional eating. It's still a little bit of an issue, but not as much. So probably learning about, the three pillars of health for sure through Ayurveda, and just the everyday behaviors, we call it dinacharya. Um, just simple things, self-massage, which helps you get not only in touch with your body and what's going on physically, but it balances, the central nervous system and has so many other, additional benefits. Certainly, the yoga asanas that we incorporate and the breath work, and just following the principles, of Patanjali Yoga Sutras, just balance, following the yamas and the niyamas, being truthful, being kind and compassionate, not only with others, but with ourselves, and being fully present. So Ayurveda for me has been so much more than just learning about protocols and procedures and the disease process. I mean, I have a more full understanding of all of those things, and an appreciation of just how magnificent the body is, and naturally working back towards balance. I mean, that's what it wants. That's what we want, and in mind and body is to be in balance. And the things, if we are aware enough and we're paying attention and listening, the body, will tell us. It points us where to go. And that's what I learned through, you talked about the pulse reading, with Ayurveda. We do our self pulses a lot and can figure out what's going on in the physiology and with our connection to consciousness per se. So I know from a personal level, okay, I'm a little, I'm feeling really anxious and worried today, and we know that that's a part of our Vata dosha, which is about movement and air qualities, and of course affects the central nervous system. But through Ayurveda now I know how to manage that in a safe way, in a healthy way. I know I can go in and do pranayama and all sorts of things. So honestly, I think Ayurveda, just the wholeness of the whole package, it's the body and the mind and the emotions, and also dealing with our consciousness level is, it's just been an amazing journey. And it's ongoing. I feel like I know a thimbleful and I'm still learning more and more.
Well, it is a knowledge of life, so we've got a lot of life to continue to learn about. But I love everything that you just shared. I just reflect back to you that that you talked a little bit about not only thinking about the senses, and that everything we consume, whether it's through our mind, through our digestion, everything affects our physiology.
It does.
And so really, and keeping the company of the wise, I mean, again, that also is consciousness. And if we're, it's sort of like, I've always wanted to be around, there's just some people you want to be in their presence.
Yes.
And, if you can't always filter in life totally, especially with your family, obviously. But, we do want to have that sangha. We want to have that support of other people who really have peaceful motives in mind as well, and want to live in a more holistic, natural way, no doubt. Do you want to say anything more about perhaps emotional eating, or is there anything else you want to say about that in Ayurveda? Or
before I started really working with the dietary principles and being more mindful of my emotions and what I am doing and how I am responding to things that are happening in my life. Because before, I would go into a work meeting or something and come out stressed, and my first inclination is I need something in my mouth. I need something sweet. I want something that's nurturing.
Something that's pacifying.
Yes. Because
The
I'm
anxiety,
frustrated,
essentially.
or feeling angry. Now I know more about like Kapha dosha, and I understand, about that sweetness and that nurturance and, almost kind of that
Sure.
motherly hug that you're looking for, but I can access that in other ways by eating more healthier foods that are more kapha, calcifying, and just knowing that.
Or, you can bring sweetness into your life,
Yes, through aromatherapy,
in other ways that, it doesn't necessarily
beautiful
have to be
music.
the sweet
Mhm.
taste. So that's
Right.
beautiful that,
Veda music,
just
all sorts
cultivating
of
that
things.
awareness.
Yeah. And being
Yeah.
mindful of what I watch or, don't watch on TV. I've stopped watching the news. I used to love more, action-packed, movies and a little bit more violence and, maybe even the scarier movies. And now I'm just wanting soft and family friendly and, kind of just fun. And I've been able to cultivate that more and more because I'm aware of, through what I've learned in Ayurveda, what we take in through our senses, like I said, not just what we eat, but what we listen to, the words that we speak also, what we're saying, to ourselves in our mental talk, all of it, it affects the physiology, it affects the senses, it affects our minds, and the body follows the mind. And so you have that emotional component, and that affects our hormones too. So it again goes back to this holistic, this wholeness perspective that I've become more and more aware of, which has really empowered me in the moment. Because I have that awareness, then I can create the shift towards positivity. And also, I can choose, do I want to go get that candy bar, right now and just have that instant fix? And some days I do, Noreen. I'm not perfect.
Sure.
But then
And you know what?
there's other days
I
that
confess I had
I'm
chocolate
okay.
before our podcast today. Needed a magnesium hit, dark chocolate,
Nice.
over
There you go.
72%. Uh,
Love it.
I like what you said. It's not, Ayurveda is not meant to be rigid. And it's not meant to be, you're following a monk's lifestyle or something like that. But it's just, really we want to be living Ayurveda in our modern lives.
Mhm.
And it's cultivating that awareness. So like you said, you can have that chocolate bar, but
Yeah.
it's more conscious than unconscious. That's really the important distinction. It's a conscious choice.
Right.
I also
And
like what you said about, we hear a lot about Ayurveda and balance, but you use the phrase working back toward balance. You want to say more about that?
mhm. I think, I'm always striving to be, balanced in everything that I do. And, we can get a lot off kilter, throughout our day. Or if you're just not feeling well, for whatever reason, or maybe I've had a little bit less sleep. I'm always just trying to just be aware of where I'm at now again. Taking things just kind of easy and seeing what can I do to bring in that balance. So what I mean by that is I'm working Ayurveda to bring it into my life, what's going on with me in the present moment and what's happening, with me, which is always changing and shifting, as we know. I'm not trying to force myself into Ayurveda or an Ayurvedic box. Like you said, I'm not living a monkess is how I would term
Right.
it, lifestyle.
Mhm.
That is rigid, that I've got, I have to do this and this and this and this and this. There are, things that I am aware of, like, sleep, for example, I do feel better when I get up before 6 a.m. and I do my, my meditation and stretches and my breath work and I start my day. And I'm more sharp and energetic and clear. And that's one of the, tenets, one of the principles of Ayurveda.
I know.
And
Isn't that
also,
the coolest thing? We think if we sleep late, we're going to feel more rested and get more sleep.
right. Mhm.
But the quality of the sleep is such that we don't. So if we get up
Right.
before sunrise,
Mhm.
while it's still Navata time,
Mhm.
we actually have far more energy. I mean,
Yes,
that is just, Ayurveda and the way it syncs with the circadian rhythms of
exactly.
nature, of our human physiology is just, wow, way ahead of its time, way ahead of its time. Or maybe
Absolutely.
it's way ahead of our time.
Right.
That's a good way to think about
It's all of the above, it's all in
it. Exactly.
nothing. Yeah.
So tell me, Jamie, are there any personal or professional projects that you're currently involved in that you are bringing Ayurveda out into the world or promoting Ayurveda to a wider audience?
Oh, that's a really great question, and I'm glad that you asked it. I know we had briefly talked about this the other day, and I was thinking about it. I am a, TA right now in the master's program of
That's
Ayurveda at
teacher's
MI,
assistant.
teacher's assistant, lead teaching assistant. And so I graduated in 2022 in
Okay.
June, and then found out they had a TA position, open in August, and I jumped on that because, the community here is incredible, and I didn't want to leave. I still wanted to continue my learning and growing and offering my knowledge or my help and my support in any way that I could. And, MIU has certainly, allowed me to do that in working with the amazing students that we have, that come into this program. And so I'm doing that. And on the side, I do a little bit of Jyotish, for friends and family, with Vedic astrology. And I'm still, I've been studying that for over 10 years. And it's like reading strings of DNA. You just go deeper and deeper and deeper, just like Ayurveda, which I guess I love because I love learning. And this is always going to be a journey of, evolving and growing in the knowledge. So that's one way, just through family and friends, trying to help them with their lifestyles and curiosity. But I think for me, the biggest way that I'm able to bring Ayurveda to the world is just, walking the walk and
Mm,
following these principles and just being a quiet example in my own life. Because I
yeah.
found that, my friends they'll come to me and they're like, man, that I'm really feeling stressed or I'm anxious or, COVID and, bills and inflation and all the things that are going on out there. But yeah, I see you and I know you're dealing with some of the same things, but you seem very, just very calm about things. And, you're
Well,
just
it's
kind
just
of,
going,
you're just kind of flowing through it. And I thought, wow,
sometimes
that's amazing.
it's
Yeah.
a facade, believe me.
Sometimes I'm still swimming upstream, but then there's other times I'm just trying to take things again as it comes. And they're like, what are you doing? And that opens the door, to have
Yeah.
discussions about Ayurveda and,
Well, that's a
what
good
I have
point.
found that's helped me in my experience. And I think that that's one of the best ways, at least for me, to bring it out into the world, is just through being a good example, of it and just having others just see the changes that, are occurring within myself. And I want to continue, to be a great support for my students and just a guide and, continuing that journey through there. I'm more of a background girl. I like to be the cheerleader and support and, um, you know, to help others along in their path, being of service in that way. And so
Every
for
part is
me,
important. Every part
yeah,
is equally significant, no doubt.
absolutely.
I know that you're teaching, so many times it's like being a parent. Your children
Yeah,
are your greatest teachers, but
for sure.
we'll shift that a little bit. Your students are your greatest teachers. Can you share an experience that perhaps from a student that has been particularly illuminating for you?
Oh my goodness. I love reading. They have reflections that they have to do on the webinar lectures.
Right.
And so they have to bring in points from the webinar that resonated with them, and then they have to link it with a consciousness point. And there's some, initially they kind of gloss over things, and they're not diving too deeply and they're not, really connecting and integrating everything. But then something will shift. That there's this click or something that just happens. And I've seen it time and time again with my students
Oh,
that,
that's great. I love that. I love that. That's a great share.
yeah, and that they all of a sudden it's like they get it. The holistic aspects of all of these puzzle pieces start coming together and they start
Mm,
fitting. And these are being reflected in their, in their assignments. And they just have this aha moment of opening. And like I said, I've seen that time and time again with my students where before they may have been closed and they're like, oh, I'm not even sure that this really works. I do all this other stuff. I have these other techniques, and why do I just want to focus here? And, they're questioning, and trying things out and really kind of testing it out, which I encourage. It's my method too, being discerning.
Sure, sure.
Does
Yeah,
this
it's an
stuff work?
exploration. And I think even
Yeah.
Maharishi says, we should be a skeptic. We should be
Mhm.
skeptical. We should ask the questions, query.
Yes, and be open to just exploring, and trying it out. And so once my students start doing that, it's just so beautiful because it's just like they're this little bud, this little flower, and then all of a sudden they just start opening, and it's more and more and more. And it's so gentle and it's just so beautiful. But then I've had some students. I had one student that recovering, alcoholic, and worked for a drug rehab center. And
Okay.
so he was, learning about Ayurveda so he could bring it, into his own life. Became, he had a really rough upbringing that he had shared, um, gang involvement and drugs and alcohol and just awful family life, And so he had been working through recovery for himself. And then he got a job at the rehab center and started looking into other, modalities. And he found Ayurveda found him because that seems
Awesome.
to be
Awesome.
what
I love it.
happens.
Love it.
And he got clean. He's been clean and sober for 5 years. He's still working in the rehab center and bringing in the principles of Ayurveda. And he got his master's degree. He graduated last year.
Wow.
And
Awesome.
he's using all of that to help
Oh, how great.
others in that
Yeah.
facility. And to me, to see that and see his journey through that,
Yeah.
it's so just inspiring. I mean, I get chills when I talk about it and I think about him and how he's turning his life around and how he's keeping these principles in his life and keeping more with the wise now. I mean, how it's really
Sure.
changed his life and he's leading by his own example.
Oh,
It's
yeah, that's
beautiful.
awesome. Yeah, I love actually I love the work on Ayurveda and recovery by Durga Leela. I think she has a book out now, but her website is
Yes.
Yoga of Recovery.
Mm-hmm.
And one of the things that she shares is recovery programs help you to put down whatever the substance is, whether it's food, alcohol, drugs, but but they don't necessarily help you, she feels, live a fulfilling life. Like you
Mm-hmm.
still have a lot of the things that the isms, you know.
Mm-hmm.
Um, so what she does in her work is really kind of bring you to the next level with yoga of recovery and Ayurveda is, having understanding of Rajas, Sattva, Rajas, Tamas,
Mm-hmm.
and really bringing in a lot of different modalities in terms of, how Ayurveda for people in recovery and recovering individuals can really bring them to a life of fullness and wholeness and fulfillment, you know.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, that's just so much there. Well, I think that really speaks to that Ayurveda can fill in the gaps anywhere, that it's accessible to all and in different ways. So that's really awesome. Now, Jamie, if somebody was interested in studying or exploring Ayurveda, but they feel a bit intimidated
Mm-hmm.
and they're not sure where to begin, do you have any advice for them?
I have advice for those that may be a little nervous about learning Ayurveda. I would say, take it gently and slow. Maybe, get a few books on Ayurveda. Dr. Prasant Lad has great, wonderful books. Dr. David Frawley. Um, you know, we've got a great introduction, even here at MIU, or talking to alumni, or faculty here about their Ayurveda journey and how it's helped them, and working with other, former students, asking questions, how can this benefit me? What do you think that I will gain, from this knowledge? And really speaking to people that have been where you're at as a beginner. And don't be intimidated. I was a little scared about all the Sanskrit, and I'm definitely not. I don't know how to read Sanskrit. It's a beautiful language, but I was really nervous about that aspect of the learning. But MIU makes it so easy to understand some of those, Sanskrit terms, but we're, able to translate that into how we can understand it, from a Western perspective. So I'm like, don't let that scare you off. I think, with the Sanskrit, we certainly use it with our professional colleagues, right? But we always are working towards, meeting people where they're at and, just guiding them along. So, questioning, meeting with others that are interested in Ayurveda. There's wonderful YouTube videos out there as well. I know Mapi has put out a lot of good informative,
Sure.
videos and stuff. That's probably what I would recommend. And just, getting in touch with, people that have been there, and started out.
Right, and can share their experience and
Yeah,
awesome,
just like
awesome.
we're doing today, what you're doing. It's beautiful.
Exactly.
Mm-hmm.
I want to follow up on something you talked about earlier, and that is your degree in physical anthropology.
I'm sure.
Now, for the uninitiated like myself, what is physical anthropology?
It is, in short, the study of humans. And from, the cellular biological chemical level clear on up through, we study, genetics and epigenetics and the full biology of, the human organism. Not just through the historical record, like paleo anthropology, which is again, historic, archaic. You could think hominids, Homo sapiens, Homo habilis, did we evolve from monkeys? There's debate, about all of that.
Yeah.
But then also, social studies of humans and groups and psychology. So it really encompasses everything as well. It goes into a lot of depth.
It sounds like it's multidisciplinary. It's not just physiology. It's all aspects of humans
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
from an anthropological perspective.
Yes. And
how does that relate to Ayurveda?
Oh gosh. So I connect that just because of you could look at how are the Vedas, we've been, what is this Vedic knowledge has been around for over, what did they say, like 5,000 years, or the cognition is probably even older than that. I'm not even sure of the dating. And it's, influenced Chinese medicine. And if you kind of look at the involvement from, Ayurvedic medicine, influencing Chinese medicine and even, our modern understanding of medicine and the biology and how humans think and how they operate and work. It's all part of that, anthropology, where it is the study of life. It's another study of life, the study of humans, the progression. And then of course, admixture through other cultures and societies and bringing that knowledge to get it in touch with, other peoples, other groups. That's what Ayurveda is as well. So Ayurveda, the study of life, the study of humans, I look at it from an anthropology perspective, and it's for everyone. It can fit anywhere. It's very fluid and flexible. So.
Well, perhaps there's a new role for you.
Perhaps.
It's an interesting intersection because Ayurveda is very much thought of as it originates from India, but the reality is it's universal principles. But sometimes the cultural trappings, I'll use the word trappings, can be off-putting. So, is there a way from using anthropology and study of culture and to make it more accessible across multicultural and across cross-cultural? It's maybe a better way, cross-cultural. So it's kind of an interesting thing to to chew on, perhaps. Yeah, cool,
Yeah,
cool.
I love that.
Um,
Maybe an ethnography, of bringing these ancient Ayurvedic principles into, more modern space, because it's
yeah,
organic, it's an organic process.
yeah, absolutely, absolutely. It's gonna but I like thinking about that. That's it's
Love
not as
that.
though it's not as though they're unrelated and you have the background. So that's cool. And what sparked your interest? Lots of students who study Ayurveda have an interest in Jyotish,
Mhm.
which is Vedic astrology. But it's complicated, and some people look at it and they say, "Oh, I can't look at all of this." And obviously, to get to really develop an expertise, you have to be willing to dedicate time and energy to it. And what fueled your interest in Jyotish? Because yeah, tell
Sure.
me a little bit about that.
Of course. Well, I've always
Yeah.
been interested in astrology ever since I was a little kid. Growing up in the 70s and 80s, we used to get those little gosh, I don't even remember. They were these little round circular little pieces of paper that we would just unfold and it would, tell us what our horoscope was or
Right.
whatever for the
Right.
month.
Sure.
Those were always fun. And so I was always just kind of interested in that, even from a Western perspective. And I had a great aunt that knew a little bit about astrology and she would I would overhear these little bits, conversation, but I
Okay.
didn't really understand everything.
Sure.
But studying Western, I didn't really feel like it was giving me the answers to some of the questions, that I was seeking about the self. I'm always striving to know more about me. And this is probably, and others, I'm interested in people, hence the anthropology piece. And um, what got me, or how I was introduced to Jyotish was through my TM teachers. I had gone to them a little for some career advice because, like I said, I really thought I was going to be a forensic anthropologist or I was going to be this magnificent crime scene investigator. And I'm learning TM and doing all these things, and they were very gentle and kind and supportive and going, well, that it's a possibility, but your avenues may shift, and they had access to my chart, and so they said, you might find Jyotish and learning a little bit about Vedic, Eastern astrology of
Hmm.
interest. And so they introduced me to another TM practitioner and teacher and astrologer, David Hawthorne, several years ago. And so I had a reading and I started learning a little bit from him and, just reading some books again. And I branched out, from there. And I've been studying, probably for over 10 years. And again, I still feel very much, like a beginner and I'm always learning and about the different layers. And I've really discovered so much about myself and my own, what I would call my own soul journey through the process of Jyotish and the charts and understanding the energies and the planets. And um, even our own, Dr. Tony Nader wrote a wonderful book that has linked the Jyotish with the glands and, everything that's going on in our physiology. It's a beautiful interconnectedness. I mean, everything really is connected. That consciousness is all there is. There really is that unification. So
Yeah.
anyway, that sparked my
No,
interest.
awesome. Well, I like the
And
way you described it, Jyotish, as, it's part of your own soul's journey, and it's also offered you significant insights
mhm,
uh,
yes,
for your journey.
mhm,
And I think one of the precepts of Jyotish is avert the danger that has not yet come,
yes,
which I
yes.
always like to like update that into modern language because it sounds like, oh, why do I want to know about the danger?
Mhm.
That's when the fight or flight comes in, right? But I think a different way to phrase that is, you can make choices. We make choices, but with Jyotish, we're going to have a little more information at our fingertips, so that we're going to be a little more prepared
Right.
for the future journey.
Mhm.
So yeah. So anyway, great for that.
I love that. Just to kind of springboard off of that, because Jyotish is all about cycles and patterns, just like Ayurveda is.
Sure.
And I liken it to the weatherman, the weather woman, that you can tell me tomorrow it's going to blizzard or snow, or there's going to be, a lot of rain. Well, I like knowing that. So at least I can take an umbrella, so I'm not just drenched.
Yeah, just something as simple as that. Like,
yeah. So that's how
right.
I look at it. I mean, knowledge is power. But then if you act on that, that's wisdom, or so they say. So
yeah, it's one thing to have the knowledge, but can you actually trust? Trust is involved as well, because if we don't trust the knowledge, we're hesitant to act. So I look at it as a three-step: knowledge, trust, and then action.
And it can alleviate and help with some of the fear or some of the uncertainty, or maybe to help in accepting, that piece of uncertainty. So I look at, Jyotish, it's not fatalistic.
Yeah, I think that's what
set in stone.
People can get a little bit intimidated by that, but yeah, that's very helpful. Thank you for that. We know Ayurveda's growth in the US is still pretty slow, although it's not necessarily a household word like yoga. But what hopes and aspirations do you have for the growth of Ayurveda in the US?
Integration, continued integration with the medical community.
Yeah.
I know, when my mom was going through her cancer therapy in Boulder, they had a lot of integrative therapists there. So not only was they were working on her case as a team. So you had the radiologist, you had the gal that did her mastectomy surgery, you had her cancer physicians, they also had the Reiki and the dietitians. And
so it was really multimodality approach, like Maharishi Ayurveda.
Yes. And I could see that how beneficial Ayurveda could be in that sector. And so, even with MIU's fellowship program, working with the medical community, the doctors, and they're learning this knowledge and bringing that into their own practices, to help these patients. It's not just working on, signs and symptoms. We're looking at the root cause of these things and also prevention. I think that's, for me, that is a huge step. And then, of course, connecting with your local, massage clinics and yoga centers and spas, because there is interest out there. People are searching and looking. So
I like the fact that you use the word, I don't remember what question it was exactly, but you use the word empower when you refer to Ayurveda, because Ayurveda is known as a system of self-healing. So it really requires personal responsibility. Say more about how you think about empowerment and why Ayurveda really contributes to that.
Sure, because you're given the tools. A lot of people are missing some things in what I would call their toolkit, and they're looking for other avenues, and not just to be pacified or given a pill or something else. That you're really taking your health into your own hands in a way, and also learning to be a better advocate, for ourselves and working with the medical community. It's a partnership. That's how it's empowering. We're empowering, our students and ourselves to step up and, like I said, be advocates for our self-healing and our self-care and our health in body and mind and spirit. And with our Ayurveda, we're getting those tools. It's like, well, what tools do I need? What do I need to know here? How can I help myself? What can I do in my life to shift, my experiences? The easiest way that I could think about it, for myself is I am empowered because I have the tools now. I have the knowledge.
Right.
And I can choose how I want to bring that into my life. You know, I get up before 6 a.m. because again, I'm more energized. I know what that's going to do for me throughout the day and help me in, you know, just my professional life. I go to bed before 10. You know, I try to live in alignment with those circadian rhythms. That's something that I can do personally for my health. Sure, you know, there's herbs and other things that I incorporate and diet, but it's empowering because I have that flexibility and that control too. You know, that's
Yeah, yeah, absolutely.
I
Well,
do.
Jamie, this was
Yeah,
really an awesome conversation. So appreciate you taking the time.
thank you.
If somebody wants to find you on the web, do you have, are there things that you would like to be found for? Let me ask that.
Whew, you know, if
Services that
anybody,
you're providing or anything else?
at the moment, I'm on LinkedIn. You know, they can certainly
Okay,
find me there and message
sure,
me. And
sure.
other than that, I mean, I'm not out there, you know,
Okay,
consulting or anything, but I'm always open to sharing and answering any questions and
absolutely.
offering any
So
guidance.
I'll include your the link to your LinkedIn profile. So if somebody wants to message you there, they
Wonderful.
certainly can.
Okay.
But yeah, so awesome. Thank you, Jamie.